Illini basketball with yet another commitment. Four-star Brandon Lee commits to the Illini.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another breaking news edition of Locked On Illini. I'm, of course, your host, Sunny Verma. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Simple reminder, you can find us on your favorite audio platform and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And if you're watching this video, you should know to hit that notification button, because as soon as news drops, we here at Locked On Illini will cover all breaking news. The breaking news today is four-star Brandon Lee has announced that he's committed to the Illini. And as usual, I'm going to be bringing on Alex from the Armchair Illini to kind of talk about Brandon Lee and just tell us a little bit about his game. Alex, thank you again so much for your time and coming back on.
Appreciate you having me on, man. Yeah, Brandon Lee, super exciting. Just about a week and a half after the Keaton Wagler news, 6'6" guard who committed from the state of Kansas. And now we got another guard here, Brandon Lee, four-star guard, top 100 prospect from the state of New Jersey, from the Patrick School where Georgie Billy most famously played. It seems like Illinois is starting to load up on some guards here, especially in that class of 2025. Wagler and Lee are the only commits. So really interesting kind of recruiting model for Brad Underwood here. We've talked about this on multiple episodes. If Kylan Boswell and Kasparis Yakuchonis do end up being 2025 NBA draft prospects, this makes total sense.
And, what seems to be kind of common trend lately is kind of going after prospects who may not necessarily be the high-end guys that Illinois and Brad Underwood and Orlando Antigua typically target. Obviously, you just mentioned Keaton Wagler previously, and now a guy like Brandon Lee, who doesn't necessarily have all that many high major offers. From what I saw, was essentially just Illinois and Seton Hall. So, but the difference between Keaton and Brandon Lee is with Keaton, I can at least see some of the skill set that Brad Underwood and Tyler Underwood really like to want in their offense. Good shooters, efficient. Brandon Lee's not really of that ilk. Brandon Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to me more like an Orlando Antigua guy. Just a relationship that was built with Brandon. I think from the footage that I watched, Brandon looks like at some point in college, he's going to be kind of your secondary scorer, a guy you bring off the bench to. Some players can shoot, some players can score, but not all players like to score or want to score. And Brandon Lee just seems like one of those guys who is not scared at all to put up a shot. And sometimes you just need one or two of those guys on your basketball team.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think his MO is scoring. He was third in the NICU EYBL this summer in scoring. He may not have been the most efficient, but looking at his film, he's a little different than Keaton. Keaton had a little bit of off the dribble game, a little bit of shot creativity. A lot of Brandon's film is a lot of catch and shoot, and just kind of being in the right place at the right time. A player that really stuck out to me as a comparison, and it kind of goes off of what you're saying in terms of being that secondary complementary player, is a guy, Michigan State's Jaden Akins, 6'3", 6'4" not the most explosive athlete, not a guy that's going to dunk over you, not a guy that's going to do a lot of step backs, but he's going to catch and shoot at a very high rate. He's going to be in all the right places at the right time. He's going to bring physicality on defense. He's not going to lead your team, but he's going to be that guy that's, 25 minutes a game as a junior, upperclassman who's had 3 years of Big Ten experience, helping an NCAA tournament team. And I think that's what they got in Brandon Lee.
So do you agree then that Brandon Lee might be another one of those players who may not play much as a freshman or maybe even as a sophomore, but as he gets more experience, as he's practicing with the team, eventually he'll be able to find his role on a team, maybe his junior year or senior year?
Yeah, I hope so. The past couple of years, it's been weird since guys come here for a year, maybe don't play as much, and then end up leaving. You look at guys like Amani Hansberry, Sincere Harris, those kind of guys, Brandon Pajimski. guys who were here for a little bit and then ended up leaving for bigger roles, things like that. It doesn't seem like, both of those guys are going to see the floor, because if you think about it, Dragobs Lawhern would hopefully still be here. And I think, it's difficult to project, but I think the game is shifting towards away from the transfer portal and back towards that, recruit to stay old or get old and then stay old, kind of like how Purdue's doing right now. Michigan State has done so in the past. It seems like Brad Underwood is starting to maybe shift back towards that recruiting MO.
And that's one of the reasons I'm actually kind of fascinated by taking this commitment. I know he visited not too long ago, and it was, at least the vibe seemed to be that he was going to be in Illini as long as the staff pushed for the commitment. I wasn't sure if maybe they'd wanted to do a more wait and see approach once Wagler had committed, but it looks like, Illinois wanted this kid. And so here he is, hopefully going to be coming to Champaign for his college career. But what that does to me now is essentially in 2025, you have what I perceive as two more developmental type of players. And, we talk about Brad Underwood and the flexibility that he embraces almost when it comes to, molding his basketball team. Do you think now moving forward that Brad and the staff are going to be a little bit more picky about who they want to take commitments from? Because at this point, now you figure that they may be using more of their resources to really focus on the headliners of the 2025 class. Do you agree with that? Or
I think a little bit. I think they're still going to swing big, but at the same time, I think Brad's always favored building a team and having guys to develop. He always sells we're the best development program in the country. I think he really wants to get back to that. Will it bite him in the butt, as he kind of shifts away from this, 5-star transfer portal get? We'll see. But I think he really wants to get back to that MO of having guys develop, getting his guys, quote unquote. And we'll see if it pays off, because, Tom Izzo, very stubborn guy. And you've seen kind of the results of the past couple of years where they've kind of been in the middle of the pack. So, but at the same time, Matt Painter, he made the national championship game. So it all depends on the fit of the pieces and, can you build a roster? And so far, they don't have holes. It's hard to say, they got the point guard, they got the big men in Merez Johnson. Hopefully Thomas Lavavicic stays on. Kerry Booth, they got the wings in Will Riley, and now they're getting, those shooters in the backcourt in Wagler and Lee.
You're really going to get the comment section going with that. Hopefully Thomas Lavavicic stays on comment.
Wink, wink.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. This is one of those, guys like Keaton and Brandon Lee. Of course, you hope that they stay on their, through their college careers and basically move on to the next level after a couple seasons as Illinois basketball players. But in today's modern age, you just never know. I think Brad now kind of understands that, and it's just kind of a year-to-year type of basis. I do think this is definitely one of the recruitments I'm going to be paying attention to, because, as I mentioned before, I don't really think this is the typical skill set that Illinois tends to target as much as, they used to, maybe back in the day. But this really has the Orlando Antigua handprint on it. And of course, with this, how do I put it mildly, roller coaster ride over the past month or so when it comes to assistant coaches and, who may or may not be happy, this is going to be one that, kind of sticks to Orlando. And so if he comes through and Brandon ends up being a valuable player, I think that's just going to be another, cap or feather in Orlando Antigua's hat. But, if it doesn't, then I don't think there's much lost, because I don't think Brandon Lee is going to be one of those guys who's commanding a huge amount of NIL or anything like that. Because again, you would think maybe you would have a couple more other major offers. And so if he decides to go, seek other opportunities, that so be it. That's just the world of college basketball now.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's an early commit, taking 2 kids in the class of 2025 before the season even starts. It's a total different approach to this past offseason when we're getting Will Riley, and then 2 weeks later he's on campus. The European guys, Kasparas Yakichonis, came out of nowhere. And next thing you know, he's committing. and he's on campus. Tomislav Ivisic, came out of nowhere. So I think it's a little different, and I think we're kind of getting back to that pre-COVID era with Brad Underwood here.
All right, Alex, you're wonderful. Thank you again for jumping on. Please let the folks here know where they can find your content.
Yes, sir. Armchairillini.com, on socials at Armchairillini. I mentioned this in past videos. We just got Instagram going. We're trying to get our Facebook page up, so follow us. Would appreciate it a lot. Next home game, we got another game day giveaway with the Hamilton Walker Steakhouse, so be on the lookout for that. Sunny, appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thank you, Alex. Hopefully we'll be bringing you back on when the next commitment. All right, there you have it. Another 4-star basketball player committing to the Illini. Again, this is going to be one of those commitments that I'm going to kind of be tracking with the side eye just to see how it ends up being, whether he makes it to campus and how that whole connection with Orlando Antigua works out. Please, on your way out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Costs you guys nothing. Helps us immensely, and it helps me come on here and provide breaking news content as soon as breaking news happens. That'll wrap it up. I'll talk a little bit more about Brandon Lee in a future episode of Locked On Illini, so please stay tuned to this channel. I'll catch you next time. ILL, love you guys.